A Giants podcast for Giants fans
by Giants fans.
It's Shaun Morash.
On the sideline, into the end zone. Touchdown, Giants!
From the offseason to the wins and the losses, it's time to take one Giant step.
Welcome inside One Giant Step. The Giants are 2-12, and now, as I stated last week, we're one giant step closer to the end of a merciful season. Look, the team stunk again. The Giants lose 35-14. To be honest, I think my first words on One Giant Step, by the way, I am Shaun Morash on YouTube, though you might read Shador Sanders. He is Bryce Gelman. Bryce, let me just start by saying this. That was ugly football. That was awful football. In many ways, you never had to sweat out whether the Giants were going to screw up this draft pick situation like the Jets and Jaguars today as they went back and forth. But people are going to hate these words that come out of my mouth. I was kind of impressed with their fight today. Like, it was as ugly as it was, and Lamar Jackson throwing 5 touchdowns. Like, if you were going to play a game where Lamar Jackson put up 35 points and scored 5 touchdowns, like, let's just, like, knowing that outcome of a game, I think it could have looked a lot worse. right up the battle, start with that. It could have been a lot worse. It wasn't. They didn't run their full pound, like, let me just ram Derrick Henry down your throats because there's a Raven team playing 3 times in 11 days. But overall, Bryce, look, it's ugly. You got to a Tim Boyle part of this. Like, we'll talk about all this. But overall, just feels from the game, this sucks. Another week closer to the end of the year. But in a weird way, as much of a 21-point loss could be, wasn't as bad and as boring as it could have been.
That's what I'm saying, man. Like, the closer we are to the end of the season, the happier I am, because I can't do this much longer. I'm happy with the losses, of course, and I've talked about this a million times. Like, in the moment, it sucks watching your team get absolutely pounded by the opposing team. But at the end of the day, you could sit with your head held high, knowing this team has a better draft pick because you lost the game. This wasn't like they were tanking. They were completely outmatched on a personnel level. I mean, they were – I don't even know. I like Tim Boyle doesn't play on 95% of teams in the NFL, but when you're down to your third quarterback, you have to go with the fourth quarterback. So it's like Shaun, I want to sit here and tell you that I'm happy, which I am, but I think a certain part of me is just so affected by these games. Like, they're miserable.
Yeah, and I think there's a couple of reasons for that, Bryce. First of all, let's not kid ourselves. The team stunk before injuries, but when you start having this many guys out that were at least the better players on a crappy team, like, if you don't love what the full starting 22 looks like, what do you think the backups behind them are going to start to look like, right? So clearly with this many guys, and they dropped that on CBS that are out or on IR, both obviously if you're on IR, you are out. It's too much to overcome anyway. But the guys that were out there, I mean, the game starts. Adoree Jackson is ripping a fumble out from Lamar Jackson. That's you're clearly playing your ass off. Then when the game's 14-0, this is where I thought it was going to spiral. When Bateman catches the first touchdown, and it's basically a 50-yard seed down the field, I was like, well, this is it. They fought long enough. Now the doors are going to get blown off, and the Giants came back, rallied, and answered with a touchdown drive, albeit helped out by a zillion Ravens penalties, which ultimately finds Devin Singletary in the end zone. And then the real interesting stuff happened at the end of the first half where Tommy DeVito was pulled out. It came out to Brian Dable after that touchdown drive, went to talk to DeVito, and he could tell something wasn't right in his eyes. He took that huge hit on the personal foul penalty. So then in came Tim Boyle. And look, the defense couldn't stop anything in the secondary. There's no Deontay Banks. There's no Nubin, no Drew Phillips. A secondary, no Cordell Flott. Think about that. The 4 guys that basically are the best players in that secondary that already wasn't a good secondary to begin with weren't even on the field at all today. And as a result, you give up 5 throwing touchdowns. But I don't know, man. When DeVito came out of that game, I literally just kind of laughed to myself. You feel bad for him. Went, all right, well, now it's the Tim Boyle era of Giants football. And, was it the worst quarterbacking I've ever seen? It wasn't. And this is where, you know what? I'm grasping at straws, and it may not matter in the end. This is where, again, I'm going to give Brian Dable a little bit of credit. Tim Boyle, in and out of the practice squad the last couple of weeks, he was prepared to play. As prepared, he knew to get the ball to Malik Nabers. I'll give him that, and gets Malik Nabers in the end zone for the first time since week 3. So All things being considered, Boyle wasn't a total disaster, and the Giants went to a fourth quarterback in the year.
It's unbelievable to me that the Ravens shot themselves in the foot as many times they did in that game. They had like 40, they had like 35 penalties. I think it was 12 for like 112 or something like that.
And you wonder how
and the
focused
Giants
they were,
still
dude.
lose this game by 3 scores.
And that's
But
this
has not been a like, all of a sudden week 15 they have issues with penalties. They're the most penalized team in the NFL by far. I don't know if you remember earlier on the first week against the Chiefs, they could not get out of their own way. They had like a million illegal formations in that game. They have not been able to get out of their own way the rest of the season. So this is not like a new thing for the Ravens. The Giants still lose this game by 3 scores, Shaun. And Tim Boyle, listen, he came in and did a commendable job. He had a couple of really good throws to Nabers, including the touchdown throw at the end there. How much more can you ask for a guy who at the start of the year would have been your fourth quarterback?
Yeah.
It's just like,
look, we're grasping. If you're listening to this podcast, I'm laughing to myself because every single Giants content creator, whether you're Bryce Gelman, Shaun Morash, whether you're, any of the zillion other podcasts you might listen to, all that do a great job covering Giant football, whether you're that Giants post-game show today on WFAN taking calls, we're all doing the same thing, right? Which is we are trying our damnedest, Bryce, to avoid talking about firing Gable and Shane where they should keep the job every single podcast, because then that's going to get monotonous. So just from a strictly like covering the game standpoint, that's what you got. DeVito got hurt. Boyle played all right. There's not much out there you can analyze. The team gave up 5 touchdowns. It was what it was. And in the end, the Giants now sit until the Raiders play on Monday night with the number 1 overall pick in the draft. And that is something that every Giant fan should smile about right now, because we just had the Heisman over the weekend in New York City, and Cam Ward said all of the best things in the world, that you could look for from a quarterback. And Shedeur Sanders is running in, apparently, to Malik Nabers at jewelry stores in Manhattan.
Throwing the ball out on the street.
Throwing a ball. And you have Deion Sanders Jr. coming out basically saying, don't believe everything you hear. Sounds like they're interested in the Giants. So I just keep, with every week that goes by where I'm bored to tears watching these Giants, understanding that one of those two guys, in all likelihood, with every loss, is going to be quarterback of the Giants next year. And we can finally breathe a sigh of relief. Now, I did just 90 seconds ago tell you, it's hard to keep talking about Dable and Shane's future. It is worth bringing up because it was brought up post-game. Yet another airplane was flown. And it's funny, I got wind that another plane was going to be flown, and I was also told that they were called off, like the dogs were called off, and yet the plane was flown anyway.
Was there supposed to be 2? There could have been another one.
I'm starting to think it was a different plane owner than the first one. That we'll never know. But, fire them now, Mr. Mara, or we won't stop, I think was something like the message.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that helps. I know that John Mara must be seeing that kind of stuff, but I don't know, Bryce. At this point, I'm almost feel like I'm giving into the masses now that go, these guys got to go, these guys got to go, these guys got to go. You want them gone, fine. But I still have a hard time thinking it's going to be that easy to find a head coach as competent as Brian Dable. And I think today, having Tim Boyle, that prepared, having the team fly around defensively where Dory Jackson's ripping a fumble early, all things considered, talent versus talent today could have looked a lot worse with bad coaching. This was good coaching today. Yeah,
and we're going to get into this conversation a million times. Of course, we don't know what's going to happen with the coaches, with the GM, but it's just like we got to mention it. You got to talk about it because obviously that the second plane was flown. Dude, how much worse could this possibly get for these guys before something actually happens? It's just
luckily it's only one home game.
Yeah, I mean, with that being said, though, did we not expect this? Did we not expect it to get worse before it gets better? That's the thing. So people are flipping out, flying planes over the stadium. Hopefully, no drones because those have been an issue around New Jersey. That's a different story for another day. But this is just it's expected. At this point, this is what comes with losing games that you should lose. Last year it could have been the same thing if the Giants didn't rattle off 3 games in a row with Tommy DeVito as the quarterback.
Yeah, and I forget which beat reporter put this out there. I don't know if it was Connor Hughes or Dan Duggan. I want to say it was one of them. But they alluded to how many years, maybe it was even Jordan. The Giants have had now a 9-game losing streak this year, 2003, 2004, 2019. And I think 1976. I think that's it. I could be missing a year there. So obviously we've lived through a couple of them. I remember a couple of them probably more fondly than you do. One
Yeah.
included Eli's rookie year where they didn't win until a game I was at, the final Sunday night of the year versus Dallas. And the theme being, is it insane that this year is so much worse than any of those years? And my point would be, no, it's not insane
Yeah.
that this is worse. I can't speak to 76, but here's why. To not have a 9-game losing streak in bad years. Okay, and we have seen the Giants be really bad over the last decade. Enough where they were picking 6th overall for Daniel Jones, 2nd overall for Saquon Barkley, right, 4th overall for Andrew
Yep.
Thomas, 5th overall for Kayvon Thibodeau. You get the drift. Every time
Yep.
they're in those top 10, you know what you never hear when I'm saying those? They were 1st overall for
Yep.
a draft pick. And in today's day and age, if you need a quarterback, and the best outlet is taking a swing in the draft with no promises that that guy's going to be any good, the only way to really seemingly accomplish that without trading up a ton of assets and even finding a trade partner worthy enough of that is to be this bad.
Yep.
So while everybody goes, I can't believe it's this, I look at it and go, good, let it be worse.
Good.
Right.
Good.
Like, I'm not looking to end a 9-game losing streak here just to make myself feel good when I
Yeah.
shut my eyes for one Sunday. I've done that too much in my life. And you look back and 6 years later at Daniel Jones, this is what you got. The Giants need to be really bad. And if in 2 years they're not good enough with whatever quarterback they take, then they need to be really bad again. And that is the way you draft quarterbacks now in football is, look, the Broncos, okay, they sat back, they got Bo Nix. Who knows? Who knows how great he's going to be? But whether you're picking in the top, you got to basically be picking in the top 3 to figure anything out quarterback wise. And that's exactly where the Giants got to be. And today, it's just one of those days. Do you want to lose by 3 touchdowns to the Baltimore Ravens with Ravens fans on MetLife Stadium? No, you don't.
No.
But I also understand that to upset them, to send 30,000 people back down I-95 to Baltimore miserable is not worth me sacrificing my future. And I know that the players out there, and we've talked about this on the Giants, are trying to lose. But organizationally, you can't convince me this many guys are on IR if this is a team cooking for the playoffs right now.
Yeah, I just like I could try to add on to what you said. I could try to go against it. What else do you want me to say at this point?
Yeah,
What
it is
else
what it is,
would you
man.
like me to say? I've been consistent on this all year
Wait,
long.
give
I
me
was
the
consistent on it
positives.
last year too. It's amazing
Right.
they lost this game and the way they did. They showed some fight at the start. I thought that it was going to be a blowout in like otherworldly proportions. Of course, with Adoree punching that fumble out earlier on in the game, I'm like, here we go. I'm walking back from work with my phone, walking through the busy-ass streets of Manhattan. I want to shoot myself because there are a million tourists around me, and the Giants just forced a fumble.
It's the holiday season. Let's not do that.
I get it. Okay, I understand. But now I got to watch the Giants force a fumble to start the game. Like, I said in the past, I root for my team in-game. But at the end, if they lose, so what? I'm not at that point. I'm rooting for them to lose the game. I don't care. I don't care what you want to tell me. Oh, you're not a real fan. Oh, whatever. We've established this a million freaking times on this podcast that it is more beneficial to lose games than to win them. We can go back and forth. We can go back and forth all day, Shaun. People don't want to hear this. I don't even know what people want to hear. I mean, do you want to hear us sit here and tell you that Dable and Shane should be fired? Because you're not going to get that from us. Straight up. You're not going to get that from us right now. We may think deep down that that's the right move, but we've both been pro Shane, pro Dable this entire time.
Yeah.
And I don't see you.
Dable, but yeah.
I don't see you, and I don't see me deviating from that path anytime soon.
No,
Otherwise, to say like, oh, okay, like it's fine. Like we understand that having John Mara pick a new GM, pick a new head coach is going to repeat this process all over again. And I can't do that. Yeah. I can't deal with another 5-6 years of mediocrity. I'd like to give this regime a chance. If they fail, they fail. Then we reset again.
Yeah. But bottom line is this, whether Bryce Gelman or Shaun Morash say that or not, or whoever screams and yells and argues with us or being shills for the organ, whatever, like that's not going to make a difference. They're going to make a decision in 3 weeks anyway.
Doesn't matter.
I was only simply pointing out again, just the case, pro Dable on what happened today, but that's not going to make a difference, and it doesn't really matter. It was just another boring Sunday of Giants football. I do have a fun stat for you, Bryce.
Yeah.
What year was Bryce Gelman born?
2001.
Jesus Christ, you really don't remember 03, 04. God, that's crazy when you say that. All right, well, today became the first day in Giants history since the year 1992 where 4 different quarterbacks in Giant uniforms threw and completed passes. That year was Phil Simms, Jeff Hostetler, Dave Brown, and Kent Graham. So that is the company that Daniel Jones, Drew Lock, Tommy DeVito, and Tim Boyle now find themselves in. So, Bryce, for the first time in your lifetime, 4 Giant quarterbacks in 1 year are throwing passes. So,
I'd like
congratulations
to
to
get some
you and young Giant
continuity.
fans. Yeah.
I'd like to get some continuity hopefully next year and have one quarterback the entire year. How much would that be to ask for? Like, is that
They had it for a long
out of the
time.
realm of possibility?
They had it for a long time, and people didn't appreciate it enough.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I'll leave it
And
at that.
now you've got people saying Eli's not a Hall of Famer. Crazy.
Yeah. Well, and by the way, we'll do plenty of that on One Giant Step this offseason.
We will.
So look, in the end, the Sunday night game is being played as me and Bryce taped this. Overall, successful Sunday for the Giants with the Jets beating the Jaguars. That was actually a good thing because the Jaguars, in theory, are not in need of a quarterback. Have the Jets lost out and went 3 and whatever the hell they're 3-14, maybe they get in the mix. So good thing for the Giants that the Jets won that game. Keep an eye on Monday night with the Raiders, obviously playing the Falcons. And then before you know it, Sunday, in a game that our very own Tiki Barber will be on the call-up for CBS, the Jaguars will play the Raiders, a game you hope maybe the Raiders now could beat the Jaguars. And we figure that out. So as you're trying to play tank bingo, just understand things actually broke the Giants' way in a pretty healthy way today. So keep on keeping on. The Giants, we will close Sunday night with them sitting with the first overall pick and see what the Raiders have on Monday. 3 more merciful weeks left. We will do another preview pod. We'll do a recap pod. And we'll take our fat asses into Christmas with hopefully a 10-game losing streak.
Yes.
He's Bryce Gelman at Bryce Gelman, right? Because they're at, what are they at now? 9?
No, 10. They're at 10, right? Aren't they?
No,
you said 10
no, they're
earlier.
not.
Yeah, you
No.
said 10.
Did I?
Yes.
All right. They're going for
I'm going
10.
off what you're saying. Okay.
Whatever. At Shaun Morash, at Bryce Gelman. We feel like the fans in the movie Major League now. Thanks for taking One Giant Step with us.